live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Until Midland Loves Jesus podcast. My name is Carlos, and today we have a new guest. I hope you guys have been enjoying these episodes. Thank you so much for commenting, sharing, liking. Make sure you like the video, and then make sure you're subscribed. It helps the growth of the channel. We've been blown away by our numbers, and we want to keep the channel going and just keep blessing you with more content because I know a lot of you guys get a lot of steering wheel time or whatever you want to call it. And so, man, today we have a good friend of mine. I'm excited for you guys to hear his story. I know a little bit about your story. I've heard it several times, but man, there's still pieces I don't know about you. And so, man, introduce yourself and tell the people who you are.
Thank you. My name's Brett. Been in Midland now for probably close to 20 years. I've been married for 12 years, 11 years, going on 12 years this year.
Let's go. Shout out Tana.
Yeah, shout out Tana, beautiful wife Tana. 3 kids. They can be beautiful at times. They're always a blessing, but Micah is my oldest, a little 8-year-old girl, and then I have 2 boys, Madden 6 and Memphis 3.
3 kiddos, wonderful wife. Man, you got a beautiful family. You've built a beautiful family. And I think you building a beautiful family is due because of your story. I think what you've gone through, I think you've always wanted to make sure you've had that beautiful family and because of what you've walked through. And so today we're just going to hear what you've walked through. You're not from here. Tell us about where you grew up.
I grew up in Sweetwater. I was born in the early 80s. If my mom does watch this is I'm gonna be matter of fact about a lot of things today, and kind of even maybe going back to kind of what you mentioned when you gave your testimony. Like, the testimony's wild. You know it's wild.
Yeah.
And anything I say here, I'm not trying to glorify anything. It's just
Yeah.
I might be matter of fact with some of the things. It's just what happened.
Yeah.
Or it's who I was or what I was doing at the time. But in no way, shape, or form am I trying to glorify anything. And then, but in particular, right here, talking about my mother. Just want to give you a lot of grace, Mom, if you do watch this. No hard feelings about anything, but
Yeah.
Mom had me when she was really young. Got married to my dad. You know how the shotgun wedding stuff like that. They just don't work out a lot of times.
Okay.
And Dad left when I was a year old. Did the visitation thing for about 5 years.
Only child at that time?
My dad had an older sibling, so I had a half sister that on his side. But with my mom, nothing.
Okay.
And in fact, from my mom and dad, I'm the only offspring.
Okay.
All my siblings that I have 2 half sisters, 2 half brothers.
Okay.
But I don't have any full blooded.
Okay. See, that's one thing I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought you had some full blood in there.
Yeah. Nope.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna glance over this. It is a part of my testimony. There was a stepbrother later on in life that did inappropriate things, some SA type stuff when I was real little. 4 or 5, and it was one of those things. I don't remember it a whole lot, but I know it happened.
Okay.
And I know that really affected my maturity
Psyche.
and my psyche as a kid growing up, and just I think I kind of crawled inside, and that's where I lived for probably majority of childhood, just like real introverted. And
that's one thing I didn't know about you. Maybe I forgot about it, or I don't know.
I don't talk about it very often, but
and I know you want to glance over. I kind of want to dig into that a little bit because that's a part of so many people's stories, and I think the Christian community has to do a better job of not necessarily just talking about it, but because we say it. Me and Ace say it a lot. Like, we believe what the Bible says, and we believe when it is confessed, there's healing that takes place, which I know you've already walked through.
Yeah.
And so, was that something like was found out, or did you like tell somebody?
I didn't tell anybody till I was in Teen Challenge when I finally told somebody.
Okay.
But even then,
you were at what?
I was 24, 25 almost.
20 years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also one of those things like I told my mom and my stepdad.
Okay.
And I knew like there's nothing that, like nothing's gonna come of it. I just needed
Okay.
to tell y'all,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
and but as a little kid, like, you don't really, like, I don't know what I was thinking when I was a kid. I just didn't. I never told anybody,
Yeah.
and I just lived with it and carried it.
And that's tough because that takes you into your childhood, which you said made you introverted. Talk about your childhood. What was that like? Were you kind of a loner? Were you
So my biological father, he terminated his rights to me when I was 6. I was born Brett Brown,
okay?
and when he did that, that kind of paved the way for my stepfather to come in and adopt me. I took on his last name, and I remember this. I do remember this big argument. That one of the last big arguments my mom and my dad had. It was kind of when about the time all that was happening. He might have been drunk at the time. I don't really know all the details, but I know he came over, and I think he was feeling bad, and he left a guitar. I remember it was a red Fender Strat. He left a guitar on the porch, and him and my mom were out front arguing. And I don't think it lasted long, and he just left. And I don't know why, but we took that good. My mom took that guitar and pawned it, hawked it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and took the money and bought me a skateboard. And I think we all know I didn't turn out to be a skater. I would, if I had it today, that'd probably one of the most priceless possessions I have.
Okay.
Would just be that guitar from my dad, because I've made contact with him since then. I think I first talked to him after 18 years. I think I was 23, 24 when I first
Okay.
made contact with him. But it was also one of those things, like, I thought when we establish contact, we'll just easily have a relationship, and we still don't.
Didn't play out like the movies, kind
No,
of.
not at all.
I don't want to move too fast. So you're growing up now. But your mom got remarried to your
Yeah,
stepdad.
mom got remarried to stepdad.
You got adopted,
Got adopted.
man. And shout out to tell me his name,
Scott.
Scott, which I've met Scott.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was even thinking about it this week at church. Or I can't remember. I might have been at the gym listening to worship music or something. I can't remember what I was doing, but just I need to text him, and because I've never done it, I don't think,
oh wow.
and just he sacrificed a lot for me, and he didn't have to, and
Yeah.
just I don't. It's funny you brought that up. Like, God's been speaking to me about that recently.
Awesome. Well, I think it's such. I'm reminded because Kinley, my oldest, is not my biological, and I hope one day I can adopt her and her take on my last name. But I always shout out stepdads because, especially as Christians, man, you know this.
Yeah, the
We're
Redeemer,
adopted.
the Redeemer.
We're adopted into his family, and when he didn't have to, when we didn't deserve it, and kind of what you said, like, man, he didn't have to do that, but he did it.
Yeah.
And so, shout out Scott if you ever listen to this.
Yeah.
Um, so growing up in Sweetwater, man, what was it? Small town?
Small town. Grandparents lived on a probably 10, 12-acre farm south of town.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time out there as a kid with my granddad. Good times, good memories.
So you milk a cow.
No, we didn't have milk cows, but
No.
I can.
Goats?
No, had chickens and cows.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty small type.
Yeah, yeah. Cows are mainly for just breeding them and selling them, and
Okay.
beef and stuff like that, and then chickens for eggs. But my granddad was really into flowers.
Okay.
He had like acres of iris flowers, and he would give me a hoe and send me out to that field, and I'd be out there for 3 or 4 hours in the morning just hoeing weeds.
Dang.
As a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old boy.
And at that time, you have any siblings
Yeah,
introduced? Okay.
I grew up with my stepbrothers,
Okay.
half brothers. This is one of those things, we grew up together,
Yeah.
and I was here when they got here. So hopefully to them, I'm just like, blood brother.
Yeah.
But we grew up. My brother Aaron, he's 3 years younger than me, and then my other brother Corey, he's about 6, 7 years younger.
I don't know if
than me.
I've met Aaron, have I?
No, Aaron's never been here.
Okay.
My other brother.
Yeah, I
has.
know Corey's.
Yeah.
I've met Corey. So you grew up in Sweetwater. When people get to know you, they find out you're a really smart dude. Like, you're incredibly smart.
That was
Was this like you recognize this as a kid? Like, school was easy?
school. School was easy, but Sweetwater, I don't know if it's true everywhere. They had like a lot of gifted and talented programs,
Uh-huh.
and I was always in those. When I got to high school, we were taking the AP classes,
Okay.
and actually took something like that. Like you can take an AP class, but if you don't pass the AP test, it doesn't. You don't get any college credit for it. But
Okay.
I think I took a math class and maybe an English class or something, and
So growing up,
clocked out of some college
what
credits.
were interests of yours? Were you a reader because you were,
To
or
be
what'd you do other than the farm?
so junior high, I started playing tennis.
Okay.
I never was really good at it. Athleticism was not my strong suit. I was on varsity, but that's only because there were 6 of us on the tennis team in Sweetwater. Uh, then in middle school, really, I was also really big in choir.
Okay.
When I got over to the high school side, we had a choir teacher, Miss Mayo. She was one of those women that she was very hard, but she would recognize greatness
Yeah.
and call it out of you.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I think she's since retired, and she might have even gone home to be with the Lord. But I remember that just like she would make you work, but my gosh, she would make you a better person because of it.
Yeah.
And I want to say my freshman year, I almost made state choir.
Oh wow.
I was an alternate to state, which as a freshman was
Big deal.
a big deal.
So people watching this or listening to this, they go to our church. If they do, they know obviously you can sing and play. At what age was it? Junior high? Was it her recognizing that in you, or you kind of knew that you had a little something?
So grandma signed me up for piano lessons, probably 6, 7, 8. I think I only did it for 2 or 3 years, kind of learned the basics,
Yeah.
and then got in the choir, and then I think I got grounded somewhere around sophomore, junior year for a couple weeks. I don't even remember what I got grounded for, but it was during that time that I kind of picked up a guitar and
Okay.
kind of taught myself how to play, and
The rest is
the
history.
rest is history. I'm still like I'm not some phenomenal guitar player, but
But you can get it
I
done.
can get her done.
That's right. um. So at this point in your life, has church been introduced? Were you a Christian?
Okay, that's a good question. I grew up going to church.
Okay.
We went to several different churches. There was a couple. There was 2 years I think where we moved to San Angelo, then went back to Sweetwater. Grandma was a Methodist. Went to church with her a lot. Um, but we were one of those families that we didn't really talk about our faith. Pretty much, the only time I really remember praying growing up would be at Sunday lunch, like right after church.
Uh huh.
And I really think it's just a lot of the things that happened to me as a young child.
Yeah.
The essay, the dad leaving. I remember when my dad left. I really had like this dichotomy that I couldn't really come to grips with. Like, on one hand, I'm mad. So I'm like, yo, I don't need you,
Yeah.
you know. And then the other side, I'm a 6-year-old little boy. Yeah, you need your daddy, you
Right.
know. And so I was basically torn in two. And I think that's kind of what really, I learned all this in Teen Challenges through prayer and reflection. Like, I traced everything back to kind of that moment in my life.
Yeah.
I kind of became a closet atheist at about age 6, 7.
Okay.
And I lived there for the next 16, 17 years.
Oh wow. So were you a part of a youth group?
Yeah.
So going to youth group, knowing like I
Yeah.
don't believe in this God that you're teaching me, um, was that obviously now it's a lot different, but at that time you didn't know that it was, how do I say it, because of what happened, or you kind of did
Oh,
know?
no, at this time I did not know. No.
Okay.
I just knew I'm real mathematical, you
Uh-huh.
know, and I think you mentioned in one of the other podcasts, like I got to that question, like, where did God come from?
Yeah.
Like who made you?
Yeah.
You know, like, but it's still just, even
Yeah.
now, I 100% wholeheartedly believe in God. And even when I just think of that question,
Oh yeah.
it takes
Same.
me to this infinite void. I'm like,
Yeah. I agree. I'm the same way. Um, we wrestle through that still, but again, you can't convince me that he's not real at this
yeah,
point.
yeah,
But
all that.
so you're atheist. So
But even though I was a closet atheist, I never talked to it to anybody. I didn't talk to my parents, my brothers, my friends in youth group. I just didn't want to have the conversation
yeah.
because
So what?
in my mind, there's nothing you can say that's gonna be like, oh, I get it. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Now in high school, was it your high school years? They were pretty? Would you say normal?
They were very normal. My parents were very strict on me, even after I kind of got a vehicle. I never really had the freedom to go out and make bad choices,
Yeah.
just because they always kind of just knew where I was, what I was doing, when I'd be home,
Yeah.
and probably, and every high school is high school. I was
Yeah.
just trying to just fit in, bro.
Yeah.
And I tried to hang out with the popular kids. For the most part, they accepted me,
Yeah.
but I I was a little chunky, I was a little nerdy, like it. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Because it's really when you get into your college years, this is kind of when your life
yeah, that's
takes off, if you will.
yeah.
So you graduate from Sweetwater again, incredibly smart. Because of that, you're now headed to
Angelo State University.
Angelo State. Okay, I couldn't remember if that was first or LCU.
No,
I think
yeah.
LCU was later down
Yeah,
the road.
yeah.
So you get to Angelo State, your world expands quickly because you're in Sweetwater
week,
to San Angelo.
that first week, brother.
The freedom came.
Oh, the freedom came.
Tell us how you explored that freedom. What was your world like now?
I met a little redheaded, curly-haired girl at like freshman orientation, like first day, and fell in love, and nothing ever came of it. We never even but I chased her for a couple weeks,
Yeah.
and I think the first week of being at college, I think I drank beer and smoked weed for the first time in my life.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That quick.
that quick.
You were ready to explore.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that I'd kind of already decided. Like I was so frustrated with kind of just how things went, at the home in high school with my parents. Not, and looking back on it now, I totally get what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But also in the, like it just bred like this stallion in me. Like just wait.
Yeah.
When I'm free, I'm gonna do what I want.
So you went into college. What, bitter is bitter the word?
I wouldn't say I was bitter. I was just ready to do what I wanted.
Yeah.
Almost like the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Just give me my inheritance. I'm out.
Okay. So you get out. You're in Angelo State. What were you going to school for? Or at that time, you're just trying to get your basics done.
Yeah, I was going to be a math major
Okay.
with hopefully like a teaching certificate or something.
Okay. So you really didn't know what you wanted to do with your life
No.
at that point. You were just glad to be
Yeah,
gone.
just glad to be out of the house.
Yeah. So you're in college again. Incredibly smart. I can't say that enough. Was there? You said you tried drinking and smoking week one. Was obviously we know kids in high school that start doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Did that create
Some
some
of those
curiosity
kids.
or?
No, some of those kids were from Sweetwater with me,
Okay.
and they had kind of dabbled in that stuff like while in high school.
Why didn't you dabble in high school? Were you just scared of your parents, or you were smart enough to know?
Scared of my parents, and then also just like they always knew where I was and what I was doing, and,
Yeah.
and I had a curfew, and
Yeah.
I want to say I think I saw a joint while I was in high school.
Okay.
But I don't even think they lit it while I was there. I just saw it and I was like, oh, that's weird.
Which hindsight now, as an adult and as a parent, like those were the good times. Like you actually, there was moments. Not saying that the whole time was bad, but your parents were being good parents.
Yes. they were being very good parents.
Yeah.
But
then-
also this. Just like I said, if y'all do watch this, Mom, Dad, I'm not knocking y'all at all.
Yeah.
It's hindsight's 20/20, but I just looking at my own kids now. I want to try to just create an environment where I think the biggest problem is the environment was created where I couldn't make a mistake.
Yes.
Just perfection was the goal,
Yeah.
and even now I'm kind of convicted because we might be doing that with my daughter.
Okay.
But I just want them to know that I love them and
Not because of what they do or don't do.
yeah, but I know what happens if you create an environment like that and deep down we love each other, but there's just this seed of animosity, I guess, almost,
Okay.
if you will.
Yeah, yeah. So you're at Angelo State. You start, but you stay on track with school.
Somewhat. First semester, I think I got all A's, but I started dabbling in drinking here, smoking here. I really loved marijuana.
Okay.
I we I don't even. It's the whole 3 or 4 years here is a blur just because of
Yeah.
how I was living. But it was also like my hair was on fire. It just happened so fast because I was just go 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 go. And but it was one of those things that just it slowly started, And but so the first semester I passed all my classes. Second semester I think I got like a couple C's. I think I might have failed one, and then the third semester I just completely
Let it go.
let it go.
You're working. Are you working at this time, like to pay for all this paraphernalia?
Um, I ended up getting a job eventually. I don't think I had a job the first 2 semesters.
Okay. So
I
you
did.
just had friends that had it.
Yes.
Okay. So did it like? When did it intensify? Like when did you realize like I really like this and this is going to be a part of my life?
I probably realized so I went home back to Sweetwater that first summer. Got a little job at Kmart.
Dang, Kmart, let's
Kmart.
go.
Shout out Kmart. Um, and I realized that I sought those things out in Sweetwater. Whereas before, all that stuff stayed in San Angelo when I left the dorms. And then when I came home to Sweetwater that summer, I sought those same things out. I met a few friends and just kept going.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably about the time that my parents kind of started realizing that I might be on a bad path.
Yeah.
But at this point, even though I was living at their house, I was doing whatever I wanted, I think.
Gotcha. So were you like, I guess this is a millennial term, but a pothead? Like you were just a
Oh,
pothead.
I was through and through.
Okay. Um, Still in school though. You haven't dropped out or
No. So when my GP, so I had a full ride, but to keep that, I had to maintain like a really good, well, not really good, like a decent GPA. I think like a 3.5 or something. And so I had that the first semester.
yeah.
The second semester, even though I had like some decent grades, that C in that one failing class brought my GPA below the threshold, and so I got put on probation.
Okay.
And then
Did that scare you or didn't care at this point?
it did to an extent.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, just at this point I've experimented with a lot more than just
Okay.
beer, marijuana.
Now you're dipping into some hard stuff.
Yeah, there's some harder stuff involved, just different stuff, just pills, just basically anything I could get my hands on.
Okay.
Just, and I think deep down I was just trying to escape reality. Like I enjoyed just getting away from reality.
What were you trying to escape from? Were like just again things that you were able to now not fully process because you're still a teenager. You're 19,
Yeah, 19.
but you have more, I guess, cognitive awareness that that did happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even then, I don't think I put two and two together.
Okay.
I think I was just running, and I will say this: I remember, even though I hadn't fully accepted Christ in my heart, just because I was a full blown like closet atheist growing up. I remember the first time that I drank that beer and smoked that weed. The Bible talks about our being written on our conscience, our heart. I had that feeling that this is wrong.
Okay.
Like it was there, even though I didn't, and encourage parents that maybe have kids going through similar stuff. Like the first time I did it, it was there, but I ignored it.
Yeah.
And then I ignored it again and again until it becomes seared. But
And you're kind of talking to parents in the sense of like, kind of what I tell our church is like, listen, I know that you know.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit up here and beat you over the head and tell you you're a sinner. You know that, and you felt that.
Yeah.
Like, this is not right, but you ignored it. You kept running from reality. Now you're into hard stuff. Now you're
So
messing
the hard stuff, like it, I wasn't addicted. That comes later in my
Okay.
life. But if it was there, I did it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like out looking for it.
Yeah.
You know, hawking car stereos and taking them to the pawn shop type
Gotcha.
stuff.
Okay. If it
But
was in the environment, yeah,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
why not?
yeah.
Let's play.
Um, but
So San Angelo, you go back. Do you finish?
I never finished in San Angelo.
Never finished at Angelo because you
Because
lost
of
your
what?
scholarship.
No. Well, yeah, probably. So I think it was. So I went fall, spring, another summer. I stayed in San Angelo that summer. I think at this point I've got an apartment right across the street from the school.
Okay.
If I'd have known the good deal I have, I'd still be living there. It was $295 a month, all bills paid,
Woo!
baby. $295 a month. I was
Oh,
waiting
man.
tables at
Kids,
Chili's.
don't grow up
Yeah, don't
too
grow up.
fast.
And but if I did not clean up this next semester, the fifth semester that I was in school, I was gonna be out.
Yeah.
And so there was something inside me that's like, all right, you need to get your life together. And so I cut out all the hard drugs, and I was like, no drinking Monday through Thursday, going to school. I didn't stop pot. Like I would smoke and still go to
School. Yeah.
still go to school. And I was actually doing it. I was doing good, you know. And It was September. I think at this point I'd been in school like a month and a half, and kind of the first wave of tests kind of came.
Yeah.
And I took all my tests, and I know I aced them. And I was at work one day, and I was like, you know what? You've been doing good.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. And there was this guy that come in, and I waited on him at Chili's like the week before, just a normal looking like pothead college kid like me. And he said, look, I'm new to town, but you look like a person that might like some of this. And he just slid me his phone number, and I guess he was selling mushrooms.
Okay.
And I'd done mushrooms before, and so I knew what they were. And I brought it up to some buddies at work, like, oh yeah, let's do it, let's go. And so I called this dude, and ended up being a normal dude selling drugs.
Yeah.
And I bought some
Just your
drugs.
regular
Yeah.
drug dealer down the street.
And so I bought all these mushrooms, but it's like, I'm not trying to like glorify it,
Right,
but
right.
these mushrooms, they weren't like the other ones I'd done. They were grown. There's different levels. I'll
Yeah.
just say that. And these, I'd never done anything this potent.
Okay.
And bought them, divided them up, went up to work, gave it because people at work, like I think I bought for like 8 or 9 people,
Uh-huh.
and split them up, took everybody's, and my roommate, we're over at another friend's house, and we all take them, and we're sitting there, just doing the Pink Floyd on the radio. And I remember like entering this trip, and I was like, I can't believe these people took these while they're at work. There's no way they're going to be able to work. And I just went on a trip for like 8 hours. Eight
Oh my
hours, I was
gosh.
not in control of my life. And I never did that drug after this night ever again. But this was one of the turning points of my life. I wish I could look back at this life and be like, yeah, I changed after this night, but
Yeah.
I didn't. But it was the turning point of my life. I'm just going to be nonchalant and just, God met me that night
Yeah.
while I was high, and he talked to me the entire night.
Wow.
And I wish I wasn't so hard-headed, because I probably could have turned a lot of things around a lot quicker.
Yeah. Saved
But-
yourself a lot of harm.
Yeah, but
But you didn't turn things around. And now you're in a place where you've experienced spiritual things because you're messing with some stuff. Take us from there. Like, what you said you didn't turn your life. Did it get worse?
I've told you this story before, haven't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know? All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just whatever you want to share for the pod. I mean,
If y'all want to know the rest of that story, come talk to me.
There you go.
All right, there we go. After that night, I'm going to jail that night. And
Yeah.
I needed it at the time. It seemed like a whole lot of money for a college kid. I needed about $3,500 to fix some property that I had damaged that night, and so I still didn't quit the weed or the beer, but like I kept going to school. I actually finished the semester,
Okay.
had good grades, and I was just working. I was picking up doubles anytime that I could. And after that night, my parents came to town and they took my car away. And I think they were hoping that with no vehicle that I'd have to come home.
Yeah.
But I was very resourceful, and I was just living with friends, catching rides to school, catching rides to work. And over Christmas break, I didn't go home for. I don't think I went home for Christmas that year. I stayed at some friends from work. Stayed at their house. Anyways, I worked a double New Year's Eve, and I was gonna work a double on New Year's Day. And the house I was living at was basically just kind of like a party house, just
Yeah.
a lot of just college kids in and out, just constantly, But long story short, with this, that house that night that I was staying in, it caught fire, and it. At the time when the house caught fire, there was three of us in the house. It was myself, an older man. His name was Mel. He was one of our regulars at Chili's. He would come in and sit at the bar all day, and that's how we kind of got to know each
Yeah.
other. He just hung out with us though. I don't think he had any family, or if he did, his kids were in different cities, and he was just lonely.
Yeah.
And so he would come hang out with us, and because we're dynamic,
Yeah.
like 80-year-old man hanging out with like 19, 20-year-old
Yeah.
college kids, and there was another little girl that night. Her name was Mitzi.
Okay.
And she didn't live in the house. She was from El Dorado, but she was going to school in Lubbock. She was down for the holidays, and I don't know how she got hooked up with our group, but she was there that night. So
And the house caught fire.
house caught fire.
What, like, take us through that? Like, house is on fire.
So I myself had stayed up, kind of doing the whole New Year's thing that night. I was a little inebriated when I went to bed, and I'd been smoking pot, and so usually when I go to sleep, I'm asleep,
Yeah.
and especially after doing things like that. But I went to bed a little early for me, just because I had to be at work at 11 the next day, and early for me was around 3 a.m. And the house caught fire. Mel woke up because he was sleeping on the couch, and rather than leave the house, he made his way down the hallway to the bedrooms. And when I went to bed, I shut my bedroom door. That's probably what saved my life. But Mel, when he came, instead of leaving, he came down the hallway to try to tell anybody. I don't even know if he knew we were there.
Yeah.
And he opened the door. When he opened the door, he fell on the end of my bed. When he fell on the end of my bed, I popped up because it scared me.
Yeah.
And as soon as my feet hit the floor, I totally believe in angels. There was an angel there that just pushed me.
Yeah.
And I just took off running, and I got out of the house.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what was really going on once I got out of the house. Like, I remember standing in like this little like sidewalk entryway by the front door, and it was peaceful.
Yeah.
And there was smoke just pouring out of the front door, and it probably took me 30 seconds to realize, oh my gosh, the house is on fire. And I had a flashback to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And the firefighters, they tell you if you're ever in a house fire to get on your hands and knees and crawl because there's more oxygen lower to the floor.
Right.
And so I was all like, I got to go back in and get them because I knew they were there.
Yeah.
And so I got back on my hands and knees. I started crawling, and I realized if I kept going, like, there's more oxygen, but there's not a lot of oxygen.
Yeah.
Like,
You wouldn't have made it.
No. And so this time I realized, so I was like, I had this idea, I'm going to run around back. So I go around back to see if I can beat on the window, break the glass, get them out that way. When I get around to the back of the house, I see how bad it is. The whole back half of the house is just up in flames, 15, 20 foot up in the sky. And at this point, the adrenaline hits. And so I run over to the window where I know that they're at, and I break the glass out with my hands, and I cut my finger really bad, and I'm screaming, and I never hear anything. And so about this time, I was like, I need help. So I run to the neighbor's house, and bless their heart, I'm beating on their door, and then they open the door. There's me, like, in a pair of boxers with blood all over, And I remember sitting underneath a pecan tree in their front yard, just waiting for paramedics and firefighters, and she was probably middle aged, probably 50 something, the husband and wife that lived next door, and I just remember this feeling of desperation, like there's nothing I can do,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason she came over and she didn't even talk to me. She just kind of sat there with me, and she was just there with me, and then all of a sudden she said, I don't know why, but God must have a plan for your life.
And that's where I want to pause, because in everybody's story, because at this point you're still not a Christian. You said that you now it had to be an angel that pushed you, but right now you're still an atheist in this moment of your life, and yet God's grace is so evident in your life. Even the night after the mushrooms, like, again, yeah, you need to go talk to him so he can finish that story for you. But God's grace was evident in your life, man.
This is why just so good. I think just like to let people tell their stories like this, because even now it's just reminding me like there's even things today that reminded me how good He is. His grace.
He's too good. He's too good. The lady tells you His grace is so good that He's got a plan. Because unfortunately, they didn't make it out. You were the only one that made it out.
Yep.
Now that just throws more trauma on your life. Tell us. Continue that. Like, where does your life go from there after that? Because you're dealing with the trauma. You're asking, why me? Like,
So I dealt with the trauma the way I dealt with it the entire time growing up.
you hide and run.
I just put it in the bottle and put the lid on it, and just my parents came and picked me up from the hospital, and I didn't have any more fight in me. They took me home. Literally everything I owned was gone. I wish I could say that was the bottom of my life, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everything I owned was gone. All my clothes, all my possessions. I didn't have a car, and I really had no argument at this point. So I went home, and I want to say I went and saw a doctor. I went to 2 funerals that week, and that was really hard. Especially Mitzi, at her funeral, I learned a little. I didn't know anything about her. I met her that night.
Yeah.
She played my guitar while she was there at the house, and it was at her funeral. I learned a little bit about her. She was a tech student. She was from El Dorado. She was recording music. She had a beautiful voice, and they played some of her songs. I want to say they gave us a CD when we left. And I learned her funeral was officiated by her pastor from Lubbock,
Okay.
who was a preacher or a youth pastor at Indiana Avenue Baptist Church.
Okay.
And that's gonna be important in the story
Yeah.
later. And
Indiana Baptist Church. We're gonna come back.
Yeah. And I want to say I went and saw a doctor, and they heard about the trauma, and they gave me pills.
Okay.
And
For anxiety, for depression.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say it was Xanax, I think.
Okay.
And but even though I'm at home and like I don't have access to like the things that I've been doing, like the weed and the beer,
Yeah.
like, I just started getting high on these pills because I had them in my room. You know? And my mom and my grandmother, bless their heart, they didn't know what to do, and they just knew that they knew they didn't want me to go back to San Angelo, even though that's where I wanted to go with every fiber of my being. And one day they loaded me up in a car, and we went to Lubbock to visit my cousin. She's living in Lubbock. I think she was either working to be a realtor or she was already a realtor at this point.
Okay.
And I didn't know it, but they were trying to have a coup. They took me to Lubbock Christian University, took me into the admissions office, and started just giving them this sob story of poor old Brett. He needs help.
Yeah.
Can he come to school here? And I tried to ruin it with everything in me. Like I tried to ruin it, and I said, no, I'm not coming here.
Yeah.
They accepted me. They were gonna let me. I ended up taking out some student loans to go to school there, but I didn't want to go there. So the entire way home, My mom and my grandma would not leave me alone about it. Like they just kept just poking at it,
Yeah.
and the only good thing about Lubbock Christian University is if I said yes, we went home, picked up the new clothes that my family had bought for me, and brought me back the next day, and I started school because their semester started like 2 weeks early
Okay.
from everybody else for some reason.
Christians.
Yeah. But if I said no, I had to stay at home, and I didn't even know if I was gonna like, because at this point I don't have a car. I'm at the mercy of
Yeah.
my family.
Yeah. And at this time, you're 22, 23.
I just turned. I'm 20. I turned 21 after I moved to Lubbock.
Okay.
Like, this all
Yeah, no
happened.
20-year-old wants to be at the mercy of their parents.
Yeah, yeah. So finally, I was like, you know what? If this means I get to get away from y'all,
Yeah.
yes, take me. So go home, get my stuff. Next day, I'm in Lubbock Christian University, and I went and saw a guidance counselor for a few times, right? And she was all like, "Oh, you're gonna love it here. It's gonna be so easy for you to make friends," and it wasn't.
You didn't get saved. You didn't.
No.
The story continues.
So I ate by myself for like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I had a dorm room by myself. I didn't have a roommate, and I'm smoking cigarettes. Since I'm on a Christian campus, I would walk to the curb, and you can't smoke on campus. I would walk to the curb, stand right off the edge of the curb, just light a cigarette, and just stare at everybody. And no, like it was really hard for me to make friends.
Yeah.
But there was, it just not, and I'm not being mean to him. I remember one of them, his name was James, and the other one was Bo. But they would have been like the rejects in high school.
Okay.
But there was a group of these people at this school,
Yeah.
and they were the only ones that had the wherewithal to notice that, like, yo, this dude's been here for 2 weeks and he hadn't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
And they came over and they befriended me, and I really wish that I'd been a better friend because I was a very bad influence on them. But I finally made some friends at the Christian school, and but I ended up meeting this kid named Bo, and he lived off campus, but it was like really close to Lubbock Christian University. But his dad was a preacher at a church in Abilene, but he was a big pothead too.
Okay.
And I got some insurance money from the fire, and I used that to buy a little car, and so now I got some wheels, and so
Yeah.
I just immediately went right back into what my family was trying to get me out of.
Yeah.
And they're in Lubbock at this point.
Okay.
And I lived in the semesters, the first dorm. Second semester, I think it might have been the second or third semester, I moved in with my cousin that lived there.
Okay.
She had a really nice house for a 20-something-year-old there
Yeah.
in Lubbock. She was making good money as a realtor. But her house was over off 86th in Indiana.
Okay.
And I would driving from there to school or to Bo's house and back, and I was waiting tables. I worked at Logan's for a while on the border, and every single day on the way to work or way to school or the way home from anything,
Indiana
I
Baptist.
drove by this church.
Indiana Baptist.
Drove by this church, and just all those things that I just gotten used to, like just putting in that bottle and just putting on the cap and forgetting about.
Yeah.
I could not forget about this
Yeah.
one, because it was just like this reminder that God, like every time I drove by it, God would just be there poking me, like
Yeah.
just, yo, hey.
His grace.
Yes.
Now you know it was his, again, hello, God's grace is evident in Brett's life.
Yeah.
Because even going to LCU, like you're going to chapels.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Chapels.
you're skipping them. Are you
No,
going?
I'm going to chapels.
Okay.
I'm taking some Bible classes.
Yeah, but
It-
still.
And still at this point, I'm still somewhat pretty much a closet atheist, even after that crazy night where God came and talked to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, it not only talked to me, proved himself to me.
Yeah,
And
but still didn't believe it. Still didn't believe.
no.
You're passing by Indiana Baptist Church. Is it still there?
I'm sure,
I'm sure
it
it's
is.
still there.
I'm sure
Baptist churches don't go away.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go drive by it next time I'm in Lubbock. But okay, how does driving by that every day, like, what does that do to you?
It gets me to a point where one day, you know what? I'm gonna go check it out. and that's the first time in my entire life, even as a child or even into my early adulthood, that I
Yeah.
said I'm going to church.
Yeah.
And even when I went, I want to say I was probably smelled like smoke and I was hungover,
Yeah.
But I went, and it was
By yourself?
I went by myself,
Okay.
and it was unlike any church service I'd ever seen. It was like a, I want to say it was a college service,
Okay.
and they had a band, and I'd always been really into music,
Yeah.
and God just brought this back to my memory. Like I'd been I'd seen the Lifehouse. Remember them?
Yeah.
They
They did the famous song with the
yeah,
skit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one.
You're all I want.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I didn't know that Lifehouse was basically like they were like closet Christian lyrics.
Okay.
I didn't know that, and because I didn't have eyes to see or ears to hear at this point.
Yeah.
So like all the stuff that like this music and stuff that I'd liked, it was just music, a good song, good tune, or whatever. And but I remember being there at that church. They played a Lifehouse song. I was like, I've heard this before. I
Okay.
know this song.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's wild. All right. I mean, I can't tell you what the sermon was about that day.
Yeah.
And you know how Baptist churches are.
Yeah.
They did an altar call.
Yeah.
And it's like the cliche. I don't know why, but I didn't even go down there to do the altar call. Like I walked down there. I walked right by like people there to pray with you,
Yeah.
for the altar call. I walked right by them. I'm like, I don't want to talk to y'all. And I went and got on my knees at the altar. And as soon as I got on my knees, I closed my eyes. I was like, all right, what do I do now? And it's like, will you pray? And then I just said, well, I don't know how to pray.
Yeah.
and then God said, it's okay. Just tell me. And I was like, you want me to? I said, you want me to tell you? I'll tell you. I don't believe in you.
Man.
And as soon as I said that, like, more grace, man. Like he just said, I know you don't.
Wow.
And he said, I've been waiting for you to finally admit it to me.
Man.
And the Holy Spirit came into my life that day.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
At Indiana Baptist Church in Lubbock, Texas.
In Lubbock, Texas.
God, your but God moment happens at an altar, not because you said, take my life, but because you said, I don't believe you.
I was brutally honest with him.
That's the key right there. That people, I try to remind people all the time, it's not, it was your heart posture. Your heart posture was honesty. And God, being the gracious, loving Father that He is, took that honesty and changed your life.
Yep.
Where do you go from there? Because
I wish I could say that was the bottom.
yeah, this is why you got to know his story. We wish we could say he joined the worship team and became a worship pastor, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, so shout out to them. I got baptized, I think within the month
Okay.
of there, and they got me plugged into a small group with college kids.
Okay.
And I remember I can't remember any of their names. I can remember their faces, but I remember going to their houses and they loved on me and they fed me but there was just something about what I was coming out of at the time. Like I didn't click with. I didn't click with them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not that everything was like looking back. I know I learned all this like looking back at it while I was in Teen Challenge. Everything was there for my success at this point. I didn't take it.
Yeah.
And also I didn't quit a lot of the things that I didn't quit smoking weed. I didn't quit drinking beer.
Yeah.
I didn't quit chasing girls.
Yeah.
But I really wish that, for whatever reason, I really wish I would have let them disciple me.
Yeah.
But I do know at this point, though, this is where things kind of took a dark turn in my life. That just the reason I drank beer, the reason I smoked weed was because it was fun.
Yeah.
It made me happy.
Yeah.
It was a quick, easy release, and but there was no doubt that there's something holy inside me now.
Yeah.
And I just got to a point where these things that I'd been doing for years that just made me happy, the more I did them, it made me sad.
Yeah.
Like, just, I couldn't smoke enough weed to escape. I couldn't drink enough beer. And that's when I was introduced to methamphetamines. And
And now your world really gets flipped upside down.
yeah,
This is where you become an
yeah,
addict.
I became an addict.
Um,
But it's just, I don't know if you picked up any of the traits of my life. Like,
Yeah.
like
when you're gonna do something,
if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it,
Yeah.
and I'm head
Very
first.
addictive personality.
Yeah, very addictive.
yeah.
Very addictive. And
How deep did you fall in?
not as deep as some people, but deeper than I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went and bought it myself. Little college kid at a house with career drug addicts in their
Yeah.
40s, kids running around their house. Just
Sad.
sad. And they were selling it to me. I was just trying to get it and go. But
Yeah.
it's the whole culture's weird, and they were shooting it up, and they looked at me, and it was almost it just felt like a demon. Like, they looked at me and said, "Don't ever do this," and I was like, "I believe you."
Yeah.
And so I never shot it up. I always just I smoked it, and but it just consumed the next year of my life, and I spiraled so far out of control. I quit going to church. I quit letting those people.
Yeah.
I just
School done. Yeah.
done. Everything revolved around that. Stay up for days at a time. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. And so you've mentioned that a couple times now that you did a lot of reflecting in Teen Challenge. What led up to that moment at where did you get in trouble? Did you get arrested? Did you,
No,
or was it just saying, "Hey, this is my option, and I need to take it"?
more of God's grace.
Yeah.
I
I hope you're catching the drift of this channel.
I was so I'd be up, for days at a time, and normal people, I lived with normal people that I
Yeah.
worked with. I was literally sleeping on a just like a cot in like this little bitty office that they had.
Yeah.
And during the night, if I wasn't out with my people I was partying with, I would just be in their garage by myself, just doing drugs, listening to music,
Yeah.
playing guitar, and I started reading the Bible in the middle of all of this,
Okay.
and God met me there again and was showing me. He was talking to me through
Yeah.
His Word,
Yeah.
and I even had like this moment, like another just real moment with him. I was like, "Yo, like, why are you here?
Yeah. I've given you every reason not to be.
Look at what is around me. Look at the state I'm in. Look
Yeah.
at me." And he straight up said, "It's like, I got some things I need to show you, and if I don't show them to you right now, I'm gonna lose you forever."
Yeah.
And I feel like I owe him an apology again. But my grandmother, they were really worried about me because at this point, I'm skin and bones. I probably
Okay.
weigh like, because I'm not eating, I probably
Yeah.
weigh like 140, 150 pounds. And
Wet.
Wet, yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do. And so my grandmother signed me up to meet with a counselor. I want to say at Indiana Avenue Baptist Church.
Okay.
So I went and met with her. The first time I went and met with her, I'd been up for a few days. I was on drugs when I was talking to her, and she was trying to convince me that I had a problem. And I was all, the problem with the drug addicts, I'm not addicted. I can quit anytime I want.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at her degrees. I was like, "Have you ever done drugs, ma'am?"
Right.
And she's like, "No, I haven't." I was like, "Do you really think you can help me?"
Right.
And but she wasn't real pushy. She was very graceful herself, and she said, "Well, if you don't have a problem, let's do this. I can't talk to you while you're high.
Yeah.
And if you say you don't have a problem, just go home, finish what you have, or if you have the power to throw them away,
Yeah.
and meet with me again next week, and just come here with not on drugs, just a small target, a small goal."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, cool, bet."
Yeah.
And so I think I made it 3 days. And I don't know why. I think maybe because my grandmother was paying for it. I still went,
Yeah.
but I was all like, you're right. I made it 3 days. But here I am. I've been up for 3 days again.
Yeah.
And she, just a whole lot of things. But she was the one that finally helped me realize that I needed help and kind of started the conversation about going to rehab.
Okay.
And about that time, there was
You're how old is at this point?
23.
23 years old. 23 admitting I got to go to rehab and get my life together.
Yeah.
What happens then?
At that point, you need to figure out where you want to go to rehab.
Yeah.
And there was a TV show on at the time called what was it called? It was, it's where they like bring the drug addict in, the family confronts them.
Oh.
What was that show called?
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
All right, anyways,
I can't-
it was that.
Comment below if you know what
yeah,
show we're talking about.
It was that show, and there was a lead singer.
Intervention.
Intervention.
Boom.
That was it. It was that show, but there was the lead singer from a band called Days of the New was on that show, and he went to rehab, and the rehab he went to is in the mountains. It was in a log cabin. It looked peaceful.
Paradise.
It looked like paradise, and so
I want to do that.
part of the process of I guess trying to get people like me that are just making them like feel like they're part of the journey. Like, well, where would you like to go?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to go here.
Yeah.
So we find that place. That place is like 60 G's a month or something. And so, but I didn't end up not going there. But one day I just packed all my things. She helped me. I packed all my things and I said goodbye to all the quote unquote friends in Lubbock. And I drove home. And I stayed with my grandmother for a week. And I detoxed at her house.
Okay.
Like I remember sleeping, waking up, eating, and going back to sleep for like 7 straight days.
Wow.
And at one point in time, I ran out of cigarettes, and so I was gonna go to the store to get some more. And me and my rest her soul had a knockdown drag out. Me and my grandmother had a knockdown drag out fight over me leaving their little house in the country
To go get
cigarettes in town. And it got to the point where she was willing to lay down in front of the car to keep me from going.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What an incredible grandmother. What an incredible grandmother.
Yep.
So does that knockdown lead to
Yep. So she finds out about Teen Challenge.
here in Midland?
Mm-hmm. That's what brought me to Midland.
Sign up. Were you for it at this point,
So
or you're like whatever? I don't care.
We did a phone interview. A lot of people are court ordered to go to Teen Challenge. For the
Most of them are.
Most of them are. For the ones that aren't, they do a phone interview and they make you say, they're like, do you want our help? And they make you admit, like, yes, I have a problem. Yes, I want your help.
Okay.
And so, drove out here with my grandma and my grandpa, and I remember coming into on the interstate. I looked over and I was like, I didn't know they had big buildings over here. I'd never been through Midland,
Okay.
I'd bounced around, from San Angelo to Sweetwater,
Yeah.
and then from Sweetwater to Lubbock, but I never made it a little further west.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know anything about the oil field. I shouldn't know anything. I just it's where God brought me to get my life right.
Yeah. And what year is this?
04.
04. So is Midland at this time like oil? I mean, oil's growing.
Oil's growing. It's
Yeah.
it's here. It's been here.
Yeah, it's
since-
been here,
but
obviously.
Yeah, it's growing.
But you get to Teen Challenge, and I want to know your thought process, just because I'm your friend too, and I know you're like you get to a place full of dudes living together. I mean, you probably thought, "What in the world am I doing?" Or were you ready?
No, so the hardest part for me was because I wasn't court ordered, and so like at any point in time, if I wanted to, like
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm out. Same for me. God dealt with that very early on. I want to say within the first 2 or 3 weeks,
Wow. Yeah, because if you don't know Teen Challenge is a faith-based
faith-based drug and alcohol program that
for 18 months?
15, 15 to 17 months.
15 to 17 months. I mean, you literally cut the world completely out.
Yes.
Like you're not watching TV. You don't have phones. You don't.
You get TV on the weekends most
Okay,
of the time.
okay.
You watch sports or a movie. We had movie nights. That was real big.
I remember
The
that.
thing about it, the cool thing about it is you take all that stuff away. So like right now, like a movie night to me and my kids is it's not special.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
But you take all that away, and like one a month, you can have a movie night. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
We're getting 40, 50-year-old men. We're getting the popcorn out.
Yeah. And so God deals with you. You're not leaving. You're committed, and the Lord just begins uproot
everything. Yeah, just we have devotionals morning and evening. So we're up at like 5:30, 15 minutes reading your Bible, 15 minutes of praying, doing the same thing at night before you go to bed, working different various jobs throughout the facility. Chapel Wednesday or church Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, chapel there on campus on Friday night. Just
engulfed in it.
You're just drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
With spiritual things.
Yes.
And just even then, I think I told you about what God spoke to me about the book of Job. That came while I was there.
Okay.
And, it's just a beautiful time in my life. And a lot of times you're like looking at it like I can't put a pause button on my life for 15 months. That's what all these drug addicts say.
Yeah.
You know, but even now, like it's been 20 years.
Wow.
And it seems it was but a breath.
Yeah.
But a breath. It was like a blink in my life.
And I love that you tell this part because at this point you've been to 2 different universities, but never finished. Didn't have a college degree.
Nope.
But incredibly smart. Like if you wanted a college degree, you could have gone and got a college degree. Yeah. And your time comes to an end, and you're graduating.
So I want to say about halfway through, God starts speaking to me, and He's all like, "I'm gonna need you to stay a little longer."
Okay.
I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I need you to stay and work here." And so I graduated and stayed another year.
Oh wow!
As a
quote unquote counselor? Leader?
No, I was I was praise and worship and educational director.
Okay.
Which is wild, like the fact that they would trust me to
But again, they probably recognized the gifting that God had put in you, not just musically, but in your brain. And so praise God for all those leaders for being able to recognize that. Talk about that moment, though, that you graduated, dude, because, I mean, your life was wild up until that point. What was that moment like for you? Were you proud or were you, like, indifferent? Were you?
I was a little indifferent. Probably I never even thought about this, to be honest with you. I was happy for my mom and my grandma.
Okay.
Because I know that I put them through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that's why I said, how did you feel? Because I know mom and grandma, they were probably elated that you graduated, you're clean. You probably look way better, healthy, stable. But for you, were you kind of like, what's next? What am I going to do? Like,
so I knew at this point, because God started speaking to me like halfway through the program, I knew I was staying. So like the graduating, like it didn't really. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm back off into the world. Cause I stayed there on campus and just worked for another year.
So this is when ministry got introduced to your life.
Yes.
Ministry gets introduced. You're leading worship. Yeah. You're helping other people get better, get well. You're pointing them to Jesus now. And you're still single. You haven't, obviously. Yeah. You're still single. You leave Teen Challenge after a year?
I ended up
after the year you graduated.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's so weird. My brain is weird. I don't remember. I got fired. I don't remember why I got fired, and I do know the man that fired me. he was a man of God, you know. He said, he's all like, I do remember why I got. Do you want to hear the story why I got fired?
Yeah, I want to hear.
I do. So, it's a Christian organization, right?
And they don't play.
No, they don't. But there's probably 12 people that work there. Some secretaries and receptionists and stuff.
Okay.
And somebody was looking at pornography on one of the computers in the office.
Okay.
And the guy that was running, the executive director at the time, he wanted to find out who it was.
Yeah.
And he had told us to write down all of our username and passwords to sites like MySpace.
Yeah.
And just all of them. But he told us to give them to the nosiest girl in the office. And everybody slow rolled. Like nobody gave her anything, right? And so he has this meeting one day. He brings everybody in, sits us all down, and he just starts tearing into us because none of us had done what he asked us to do.
Yeah.
And so all of us just, rip out a sheet of paper and start writing usernames and passwords. And so being with this executive director, like he had, when you're a traveling minister, you got, your 5 or 6 bread and butter sermons, and you just rinse and repeat wherever you're at that night.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've heard the same thing from this dude like hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And he's like, show me where you're spending your money, show me who you're hanging out with, and show me what you're reading. I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah.
And so like this was an honest question on my part. I'm sitting there writing down username and passwords. I just almost like I'm in class, I just raise my hand and I'm like, do you want my bank info too? And it was I know in my heart of hearts it was an innocent question because if you're trying to figure out who's doing this, and like, maybe they're spending money on it. So go look at the bank account. Like you preach this yourself. Your sermon is what has instilled this in me.
Uh-huh.
And he blew up. So he thought I was being a smart ass.
Fired.
He lost it, bro.
Fired.
I got fired over that.
Got fired.
But even then he was like reluctant and hesitant because you're firing a drug addict.
Yeah.
And like what if homeboy goes what if homeboy goes and spirals off tomorrow? That's on you, bro.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have this right. And so like he was I could tell he was worried. He was real worried.
Okay.
And, I want to say my parents came to help me move my stuff out.
Okay.
And they were. My poor mom, she was livid.
Yeah.
And in her mind, her baby boy is still safe. He's still at Teen Challenge, and like this move is sending him back out into the world. So I think she went and got in an argument. Like it was so embarrassing. I was like, Mom, I'm a grown man. Like,
So you get sent back into the world.
Yeah,
not by choice.
But he came and talked to me right before. He's like, man, I just want you to know that I've prayed for you ever since this ball started rolling down the hill, and God has assured me that you're going to be okay.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And now you stay in Midland?
Yep. So once I moved in with a friend on his couch. It was 2 buddies that I'd met through Teen Challenge. And everything's expensive in Midland.
Yeah.
Just throw them a couple $100 a month to help split the rent. And I got a job working at a rent-a-center.
Okay.
Just delivering tables and chairs for events, and they had a small mechanic shop in the background. I can't remember his name. It was an older man, worked on lawnmowers all day. I went and hung out with him when I wasn't busy, and at some point, I didn't do that long. Some point in time, I got hooked up with a youth ministry here in town.
Yeah.
And I went and led worship on a Sunday, and I guess they liked it. And
you got really plugged into Teen Flow,
Yep.
which is right around the corner from us. Shout out Teen Flow, still doing incredible things in our community.
Yes.
We need to get Teen Flow on. If anybody from Teen Flow is watching this, holler at us. And again, this is where ministry continues in your life.
Yeah, it was just a stepping stone God used in my life to just keep me grounded in Him.
'Cause you're what, 25?
25, yeah.
25. single.
Single.
Now you meet. You made a specific list, a very specific list. Tell the people about your specific list about the girl that you
Oh,
needed in your life.
okay.
I know we're fast forwarding a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
but
You want me to talk about the girl before that?
nah, we'll skip
No.
over her.
All right. I at some point in time, somebody asked me, he's like, what do you want in a wife?
Yeah,
And I just straight up told him, I was like, I've never really been real cocky with God to like, be like, yo, I need this, this, and this. I've always just, well, I haven't always, but I'm learning to just trust him.
yeah,
That he's got a plan. He's got somebody prepared for me. And I had a buddy from Teen Challenge. His wife was Mexicana. Shout out to all the Mexicans. And she would make homemade tortillas with every meal, whether it was like spaghetti or actual Mexican food. But there'd be a homemade tortilla, and they were so warm they'd melt in your mouth. They were just delicious.
yep,
And so I just told her, like, you know what? Let's just say if she can make homemade tortillas, we'll call it good.
yeah,
And so that became like my criteria in looking for a wife. And then Tana comes along, and she did not like me at
Yeah.
first, and I did not like her or like her.
Yeah.
She was just a person in my life,
Yeah.
and but then somebody asked me like, why does she not like you? And I was like, I don't know. And then Marie, one of the executive directors at Team Flow, she said she doesn't like you because she likes you. And so I was all like,
that doesn't make sense.
if it does, we're in kindergarten. You know?
Yeah, you're
And,
25 now.
And then Jay, he comes around. He's like, well, you know her parents own a tortilla factory, right? I was like, okay.
Okay, God's grace. Hello.
I see you, God. And so, yeah, that's kind of what started all that. It was just
Man. And then this time again, you're leading worship. You're plugged in. You're living for the Lord.
living for the Lord, leading worship, plugged in, loving, great group of kids, loved work, loved being there every day.
Life was beautiful. Finally,
Yeah.
life was beautiful. You get married to Tana, who doesn't just make tortillas. She owns a whole factory of them.
Yeah, but even right now, if I want to, I drive right a couple blocks down the road, and how many you want? 100, 200? I got you.
Which is funny because you got to know Brett. And I'm gonna say Brett's white, like
Yeah.
Brett Stroman, and married to Tana, Latina. I mean, you married into a Hispanic family.
Yes.
Shout out Tana.
Yeah, Tana and all her siblings, they're first generation.
Okay,
Yeah.
America. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And dude, now looking back, because not that I'm gonna belittle it, but just to help close us off, you have built an incredible life, dude. Through all what you've gone through, all the knucklehead things, you are now a man of God who, I say this all the time, who loves the Lord, undoubtedly.
Yes.
Undoubtedly love the Lord. You love your wife. You love your kids.
I try.
Yeah, he's trying, Tana. He's trying. But from afar, I want you to know, like, you do, and it's evident in your life. You love your church because you serve your church well. You have an incredible job. Looking back now, we've said it, God's grace. You are where you are now because of God's grace. If you could go back as Brett Stroman right now to look at young Brett, maybe even kid Brett, like a little kid Brett who feels like he's got to run, what would you tell him?
I'd probably just tell them that it's okay. Like, so much in life, like, the problem is I don't know if there's anything I could tell that 6-year-old kid,
Yeah.
and I even leading up to this, I knew I was going to come do this podcast.
Yeah.
You're just going over things in your mind, and would I go back and change anything? Knowing what I know now, I would.
Yeah.
I I've taken a lot of things for granted in my life, and I don't get those people that have like that hard like I am who I am. I wouldn't go back and
Yeah.
change things. No, I would most definitely go back. I hurt a lot of people,
Yeah.
and even I don't understand why. Like some people are. I think it's like just natural leaders, and I led a lot of people in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And even recently, it's like went to that concert on Friday.
Yeah.
Right? Um, you know, and just, I'm just gonna be real church, be real with you.
Yeah.
God starts. I was addicted to nicotine for years. Part of the oil field. As soon as I went to the oil field, I started smoking cigarettes, and then when my son Madden was born, I quit cigarettes. I immediately transitioned over to just vapes and the Zen pouches and stuff like that. And I don't think it's a sin, but God definitely started talking to me. He's like, "Yo, like you're a slave to this."
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't want to be a slave to it, but I know I am. You're right. And so for over a year, 2 years, I was trying to quit.
Yeah.
And my brain's weird. Like I was like, well, I'm gonna quit on my birthday, and then that would come and go, and then I'm gonna quit on Christmas, and that would come and go, and then for whatever reason, I've never done New Year's resolutions, but
Yeah.
this year I made a resolution that I'm gonna quit, and
Yeah.
so I think we're like on day 106 of the Bible reading
Yeah.
plan, and so like I'm on day 106.
Man,
and,
praise God, dude.
And but also part of that like was drinking as well,
Yeah.
and I don't believe it's a sin to drink, but I do know it's a sin to get drunk, and I think we all figured out my personality. I don't know where that line is, and so I've been wrestling with a lot of that recently. I really wish I could say that I will never drink again,
Yeah.
but I don't want to say it if it's not true.
Yeah.
But God has been like showing me, He's like, we just do it for a year.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm 2025. I'm not going to drink, and I know I can make it a year.
Man.
Especially now, as I'm a third of the way through almost.
Yeah.
But anyways, I say all that. I went to concert with a buddy I work with.
Yeah.
And me and him have been known to tie one on.
Yeah.
And especially when we get together. And just the way it worked out, this concert, like we stayed in Oklahoma City. The concert was in Stillwater, so somebody
Had to drive.
had to drive back. And so I was like, I'll drive back.
Yeah.
And just
Man.
not, but also, and it's not like I'm hiding it. Like I told him, like God's been dealing with me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not telling you anything. You do
You're a grown man.
You're a grown man. But and then his buddy from high school met us down there, so we had an extra ticket.
Okay.
And they've been known to the fact that I stood up and said I don't want to drink, and this is why. Not only because I need to drive, but also because
God's
working on me. My friend didn't drink, and then the friend that met us down there from high school did not do near what he normally would have done.
Wow.
And it was just that influence, like
Pointing people to Jesus
yes,
through your actions.
Yes, and I didn't tell him, I didn't ask him. I was like, this is who I am. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you respect. I know you're gonna respect it because you're one of my best friends.
Yeah.
I know it's not gonna bother you, and you're gonna understand it. And so but that's probably what bothers me the most. It was just the influence that I had in the wrong way for so long on so many people.
Yeah. Well, now, let me wrap up by speaking you from two different angles. As your friend, man, I'm incredibly proud of you. Like, just what you've endured in life and the man that you are. Like, I'm proud that Brett Stroman's my friend. You've been a day one, ups and downs. And so, man, I just, it's beautiful to see the person that you're still becoming, that God's grace is still working on you. But even now as your pastor, like, I want you to know we need more Brett Stromans who are as gifted, who are as loving, who are as generous, who are as faithful as Brett. And you're a reason we have a healthy church. You're a huge reason why we have a healthy church.
It's all God, man.
Yeah, God's
All of it.
grace.
Like
Like,
even like the past couple of days, like that verse, the people went up to Jesus and they called him good, and he's like, "Why do you call me good?"
yeah,
Like that
it's such a low
like
standard.
like, and I'm not trying to belittle what God's done in my life at all, but like that's I totally get what Jesus is saying in that moment.
Yeah,
Like only God is good,
yeah,
and why? I know He loves us.
yeah,
I know that, but why He chose to save me over and over and over. That's it's I don't- that I don't it
yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah. And one day we will.
That
One day we will. Man, what a story, bro. And we didn't even. I say this on all of them when we share it.
yeah.
We didn't even scratch the surface. You got to get with Brett to finish the mushroom story. That's a wild ride.
Yeah.
But man, I love you, man. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for our friendship. Thankful you're a part of our church. Like, um, I knew you were one of the first ones I wanted to get on the stories for real stories on the podcast because it's truly a story of God's grace, His redemption, His goodness, His faithfulness, um, and He's going to continue to save you. He's going to continue to work in you, and it's just cool to, again, because I'm the pastor of Real Church, I say that I get to have a front row seat to it. Like I know people come and they just think it's random people at our church, but I get to know stories and I get to hear their backgrounds, and it reminds me of God's grace, that He's always at work in people, and so I
Well, I remember
appreciate you.
you remember that I am second.
Yeah,
Like
phenomenon.
I remember
Yeah,
I remember when that started. Like it, but I think I was telling you this like last week when I was here. This like powerful, like just Matthew. Like I'd never known any. I've been going to church with Matthew for years. I
yeah,
didn't know anything about that. I didn't know any of that.
yeah.
So just the fact that we're gonna get different people in here to give them an avenue to because God's doing stuff in all of our
Oh
lives,
man,
all of us.
and
And
all the time.
yeah, all the time in different ways and at different degrees, and just I I love it. And so
Well,
I'm really glad you started this, and I
man,
really pray that just God uses it to build His church.
absolutely. I want you to finish for us today. Tell the people, man, like who have disqualified themselves because of what they've gone through, or maybe what they're going through. Because you shared a little bit with what you're going through, yet you're still being used by God. Like, talk to those people, man.
Just it starts with just being in His Word, and I think what really started this. I told you a few weeks ago, I'm in the best place that I've been spiritually in my entire adult life, even
Yeah,
coming out of Teen Challenge.
yeah,
Like even though I'd been like reading the Bible and praying for 2 years straight,
yeah,
like I when I look at myself, I still see that 6-year-old boy inside, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna see a grown man on the outside, and I know I'm not the only one that struggles with this, but a lot of us don't admit it.
yeah,
And but those if you're disqualifying yourself and you're struggling, like the best thing I can do is you just got to get in your word.
yeah.
Like that's what really started this journey. Was we did the Bible reading plan last year, and then we started this other one this year with
Which is still on
Manny.
the app. You can still
Yes.
start. It's
Uh,
not too late.
yeah, it's not. I just pick up where we're at today and go, and
Yeah,
then and I don't know how to quote it, but they've done some kind of psychological study. Like there is a there's something that happens to your brain when you read the Bible daily.
absolutely.
And but for those who've disqualified yourself, like if anybody should be disqualified, I hope after listening to my story, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's
Yeah,
worse things.
yeah.
There's things I'm not proud of, and but God's grace is so much more powerful.
There it is.
And it's just the love of God, and just reminded of what Paul said, like neither height nor depth, no angel nor demon, like nothing can separate you from the love of God. And I hope that anything I've said today will show you that even things that you do, stupid decisions you make, it
That's right.
cannot separate you.
Can't do it. His grace, y'all. Again, I hope you're catching the drift of this channel. It's literally until Midland loves Jesus, and this is why we're getting stories out, because there's Brett Stromans out in Midland, Texas, who don't believe, who maybe as closet atheists as they get, or outright atheists as you get, or addicts, or whatever it may be. Um, Man, we just want to know. We want our city, our region, to know that uh, His grace is bigger. It goes farther than any of our sin, um, and we just want to. We want people to know who He is in His true form. And so, man, I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. I hope it blessed you. I hope it encouraged you. I hope uh, everything he shared, with honesty and transparency. Like he said, we go to real church, so let's just be real. Um, I hope it blessed you. And man, comment down below. Encourage Brett. Thank him for sharing his story, especially because he's one that gets up every other week in front of our church to help lead in worship, lead us in communion. Yet he's still wrestling with God and him, in his own life, but still following Him, leading his family, uh, pointing them to Jesus, and now he's using you in multiple areas with your work, your friends. So, man, comment down below, encourage him. Thank him for sharing his story, and then hey, share share this on social media platform. We're gonna start getting people on here who don't come to our church, because this isn't until Real Church loves Midland or loves Jesus. It's until Midland loves Jesus, and so I want to get some people who don't even come to our church and to share their story. So I hope you enjoyed it. Love you guys. Comment, subscribe, like it, thumbs up, helps the YouTube channel. And man, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for being with us, bro.
Thank you for having me.
All right, love you guys.
Love you.